Good evening. It is July 7th, and I am going to put out a report. I have not been putting them out because we have been smoked out. And it just frustrates photographers to know that there are auroras and not be able to see them. So sometimes it's better to be quiet and not poke the bear than to say something and have a whole lot of people grumbling and grumpy because they can't do what they love to do. So, looking at our sun tonight, we have a coronal hole stream that started last night and hit us last night. We have a coronal hole stream that is incoming, should be picking up where the coronal hole stream here is lagging. So it should like merge. So you shouldn't see any drop in winds. They should kind of combine. And then you have a coronal hole stream behind that is going to pick up where and be right on the heels. So you should see a constant succession of elevated wind speeds of at least KP3 for probably 6 days. So that is elevated. We have this area over here that produced a CME. That did, and I'm going to put this in motion while we talk about it, that did produce, this area right here did produce a CME. You can see it right here. And that did, it was large enough, it whipped around the sun and gave us a full CME. So while it was outgoing and it produced the CME, it agitated enough things on the earth facing side that enough of the stuff lifted off to give us a full halo. I don't know how. It's kind of like a wave that comes across the sun when a big CME kicks off from one spot, and it produces a ripple that comes across the sun and produces other little CMEs that take off and elevates the activity. And that is how, when we have the really big monstrous kill shots that happen that are aimed away from us, that we still get auroras from it, because that storm was so big and the ejection was so massive that it actually whips around the sun and it just envelops the whole sun and comes our direction too. So that does happen, and that can be part of the story, and in this case it is. We do have this spot here that is a beta delta sunspot region, and it is producing flaring and some minor CMEs, and you can see it popping and snapping and the filaments lifting off the sun and the magnetic fields changing. Our big story is going to be down here. Let's get to that. Excuse me. Okay, this one is 3361. This is 3363. And these two are the ones to watch. The rest of them are either alpha or beta class. Beta class ones are still able to hit us. So 3358, 3359. 3366, 3365. These are all beta class. These are all right now capable of producing a CME, and very likely to, because they're in that active phase. And 64, 62, and 64. 62 is an alpha. 64 is a beta. So we've got 64 is a beta class. This one could develop into something. This is still an alpha. This is still an alpha. These two can grow. Now, I want to remind you, while we're looking here at the sunspot, of how they tick in here, and right in this area, they're really quiet when they're right in this area. And then they get this earth facing, and they get connected to that magnetic connection between earth and sun, and they go, oh, wait a minute, something's agitating me. I need to wake up. and they get right here in this latitude, or this area right here, and they tend to start developing, and they tend to get more active, and they go, wow, it's really time. I'm wide awake, and it's time to stretch my arms and my legs, and I'm gonna wake up, and I'm gonna spark off some activity and be waking up. So if that follows that pattern, these two have the potential of, one, I think they may merge. I think there's enough stuff between the two of them that we may see this become more complex in here and more complex behind this 3363. Because right now this big spot is only one spot. This is only one umbra. So this could develop into something, and it could become a much more complex spot and add sunspots in here and add umbra and become a snarly mess that is capable of producing something really big. Now, this also could make a full rotation around the sun and come back and hit us next month. Some of these big ones have the strength to last more than one cycle. They aren't a quick one and done. So, and this one is, I think, just developing. It may, like I said, make that rotation. If it doesn't hit us this month, it may be something to talk about next month. So let's jump over here. Go down, and okay, here is 3161. This one is Earth facing. Why do I say this one is one to watch? Why is it important? It doesn't look like much, right? The story is right here. You see how tightly wrapped the different colors are right here. Now remember, your blue and your green is your positive, your red is your negative, your red and yellow, and look at how tightly wrapped they are and interwoven. They're all mixed up together. And when you have that, that means those umbral loops that are lifting off the sun are getting very tightly woven and wrapped together. And when they bump together, that produces the flare. When they wrap together and they get twisted up together, that produces the CME. And they get twisted and they lift really high off the sun, and part of it shoots off, breaks away and shoots off, and that becomes the CME. And then part of it comes back down in what we call a magnetic reconnection and empowers that portion that's breaking away in a huge explosion and pushes it. So this is very capable of producing a very good sized CME, even though it doesn't look like much. And we have a 70% chance at a C-class flare, 15% chance of an M-class flare, and 5% at an X. Just depends, and it is Earth facing, and it's going to tick into that spot where it's really going to go to town now. So we're going to have to watch this one. So coming down to our monster. Why do I say this one could develop? This is one umbra right now. Number of spots, 2 spots. We got a spot back here. We got a spot back here. You can see one umbra right here. This is a monster. This is just one umbra right there. This is about the size, well, probably bigger than Earth right now. This is the biggest umbra we've had to date in this cycle. We have a lot of intermixing stuff here that could develop and reach and grow together. We have this back here that could actually rapidly develop into more activity back here. So I think, and I'm just at a guess, I think there's probably something back in here a little bit too on the trailing edge of this. So this is one to watch. This is a big enough one. I don't think it's going to collapse overnight. I really don't. There is the one just above it, 3262. It too is kind of tightly wrapped together. If it hits that Earth magnetic connection with Earth and rapidly starts growing, this could pop off to be something bigger. So, we did have a CME, like I said in the beginning. It was from that outgoing Earth limb, and it is big enough that it's going to flip. It flipped around and caused ejecta all the way around the sun. So it did have a massive flaring effect all the way around. We should have something coming in tonight. It may have hit a little early and was shorter than predicted, but I don't think so. I think that we will see that this sometime in midnight or after midnight time be incoming, and then we should see through the early morning hours it stick with us. We are going to have the possibility of a scoop shovel because we have an uptick in the winds about the same time as we're going to have the plasma hit us, which means it can go bigger than expected. I'm not banking on this forecast. I'm going to say we have enough sunspot activity and flaring that this could be off a little bit, but it could be right. I want to say we're going to get more than we expect on the 8th. I don't think it's going to be in a 2 range by any means, and I think might be overshooting on 9, and we're banking that last coronal hole is going to be really strong, and that the sunspot that's right about just trailing behind that coronal hole is going to be producing activity, and I think that's where they're coming up with the G2 storm levels. The big news, though, for everyone is that we are at a point we're getting a solid KP3. That means if you're above the 44th parallel in latitude, you should start to see auroras at a regular time with cameras. Now you have to have a camera. You won't see them with your eyes. You have to have a cell phone or a camera to produce any sort of image. And why is that? Our eyes cannot collect light long enough to see that dim light, and in dim light we see black and white. So you're not going to see color until we get to a KP6. So anything you do perceive are going to be funny looking whitish clouds on the along the horizon, and they're going to look really funny, and you're going to go, wow, that's a funny looking cloud. And it's not going to be a cloud, it's going to be auroras. So get out. Right now, the most important thing you can do is practice. I'm going to say this because we have muscle memory. You need to be out there practicing, learning what you're doing right, learning what you're doing wrong, and working out what you're doing wrong and fixing it before we get to August 21st. August 21st starts our aurora season, where we have the chance at the biggest storms. And we are very likely to get some big storms this cycle if we don't have smoke. And you don't want to miss, and you don't want to be making mistakes when you have a really big storm. You want to be able to get beautiful shots, so get out there and practice now. You can light paint a barn, light paint a lighthouse, get out there and shoot cars going down a road, go out and shoot a county fair, fireworks, city lights, people walking down a sidewalk, whatever you want to shoot, get out there and practice. All right. Tonight, Wisconsin, you probably won't see much. Michigan, you've got the best chance out of everybody unless you're in northern West Minnesota. We are starting into, the other thing I was going to say here, if you notice, look how these storms are trailing across here. Everything is coming across, and we have had a change in our jet stream. This is a great thing because it means the worst of the smoke is not being pushed down over us. The worst of the smoke is getting pushed out up into the northern sea. That means we have a better chance at seeing auroras now than we have all summer. We are, however, into our rainy season. This is the northern Michigan prediction here. You can see we're starting to get lots of shots of rain, which we badly need. And our smoke report, we are under light smoke, but not terrible smoke. So I will leave it there. Everybody get out there, go shoot, have fun, and enjoy.